The Mahajum then the Shensha Vajashamba Yanda. Zoba Sanje Rivana Shason. The Orisha Jilin Jamba Jivo, the Kanojo. Lana Meva Hadam Menam Jetama Sanje Shumden. Pejawa Shaja to Bana Sazano, Chedo Jansusha. The Mahajum then the Shensha Vajashamba Yanda. Zoba Sanje Rivana Shason, the Orisha Jilin. Given the Vakanojo, Lana Meva Hadam Menam Jetam. Sanje Jumden, the Pejawa Shaja to Bana Saza. Chöde Jazo Jewo de Ma Jumden, the Shensha Vajasham. Yandaban Zobe Sanje Riva Shasun de Devarish. Jiden Jamba Jivon de Vakanojo, Lana Meva. Tadam Menam Jetama Sanje Jumden, the Pejawa Shaja. Sazeno Chöde Jazo Jewo, Kanze Kanyan Zowo Jatam. Sajen Dena Komban de Brune, Ganin Jiden Dena Chojes, the Keba Jama Chaza. Nanda Gunga Chodo Susawa, Yishi Jazo Seja Romona, Chavan Jiden Sumname. Gombo Joni Jona Cha, Zeno, Senjon de Martimenta Wish. Sendon Jawa Jona Cha, Zeno, the Richard as Seva Suma. Yame Kenjen Jona Cha, Zeno, Gombo Tuji Chetan. Tanji Kembe Dembabo, Solomon Yenden Jazus. The Shinshala Cha, Zeno, Taben de Chateau. Giving us on the dredging, Chido Denamachojo. Shinju Jona Cha, Zeno, Trenda Treva Lawyer. Labatama Rabdo Ne, Shingatama Yenden. Gedulaya Cha, Zeno, Divachian Measures. Give up his own sober share and get some yoga. Tena Sanje Dembaye, Karma Rabbi Maman. Juma Seva Chuberta, Melum Lota Tenda. Dijanum Detrata, Solomon Dia from Jessica. Commando Nejin Jadu, and Gadana, the Shiva. Sibes on Andrew, what is so.
To the teacher, the blessed one gone beyond, full destroyer, completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct,
Sugata and Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings Trinity, teacher of gods and humans, to you the complete and fully awakened, the blessed one, glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Śrāvakas,
and prostrate in offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher
of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one,
the blessed one, glorious conqueror,
the subduer of the Śrāvakas,
I prostrate and make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened, perfect in knowledge and good conduct,
Sugata and
Lord of the world, supreme guide of beings to attain, teacher of gods and humans,
to you the completely and
fully
fully
awakened,
the blessed one,
glorious conqueror, the subduer from the
Śrāvakas,
I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When supreme among humans you were born on this earth, you faced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world.
to you
who
was
are
dead,
and I prostrate. With the pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like golden mountain,
fame
fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 words and I, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit and the qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community and intended virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions.
Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A
Star, mirage, flame of a lamp, an illusion, drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain rank of all sin, subdue the four falls, and be delivered from motion of suffering, sickness and death.
Sanje Chono, Sanje Chono, Chaju Bado, Dani Jesuji, and Dagi Jesuji, Dola Pinche, Sanje Jobo, Sanje Chono, Soje Chono, Chaju Bado, Dani Jesuji, Dagi Jesuji, Sonamji, and Dola Pinche, Sanje Jobo, Sanje Chono, Soje Chono, Chaju Bado, Dani Jesuji, and Dagi Jesuji, Sonam, Dola Pinche, Sanje Jobo,
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other professions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other professions, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Kete Pumba Dayana, Jatanji Vachino, Kete Pumba Namneshan, Pumba Senior Member, Dani Yuva Manana, Dagi Yuva Kanayu, Dadan Dagi Shivichi, Nanziman Zime, Nanziman Zimeka, Tea Yuva Mayende, Nanziman Zimeba, Kanaton. Nanda Shirini Dana, Dada Davinyamzana, Yawale Bagaji, Tesepe, the Javase, Leather Yumo Sebetara, Leather Yumonandole, Teta Trailer, Tomani Yakawaju, Dawichi Yakaji, Dameja Demaju, Sanjanam Jatadan, Damega Meja, Java Chawa, Simji Chuyodus, Majava, the Magava, Chinin, and the Soma Tamja Yanda Yanda Mayini, Yanda Mimi Yanda Me, Tennis and Jetemo, Shene Sheme Shiva, Travanam Jimadu. Namdo me tade me tene tene sinye kana tene kanjo tene rishi tene tele shamba ma yinshi de shin me tamo ni sanje je do ko nam je temba du jinju ko tuje ma nya tade me cheba ma nya tamo ni zo sanje nam ma je nyen de nam je sebe na ra sanje ji shin temba me na ra du je da da che da ko she je ko ra du je ba cho je ma wo kange de je wa jo ga ba me ba je me ba che ba me ba me ba Chabameba, Tameba, Wameba, Jomeba, Tadejime, Dejime, Jovani Shishima, Zobesanima, Tamatela, Chatselo. So we are on the page 106. The quality that comes to this, right? 106. Reason, embodiment, realization is present in knowledge of pertaining to the path of Śrāvakas and particular Buddhas to help sustain those who possess the lineage of the Śrāvakas and particular. Yeah, I think so. The quality that comes to the superior on the first ground. So quality, the first ground, perfect joy. So this has 4 parts. The generosity of one abiding on the first ground. So talking about the generosity of one abiding on the first ground, the generosity of the lower stations, like ordinary practice of generosity. And then third is the generosity of the bodhisattvas. So and the division of the perfection of the generosity. So what is the generosity of one with first ground? And the second is what is the ordinary practice of generosity? And third is what is the bodhisattvas generosity in general? So division of the perfection of the generosity. So generosity of one abiding on the first ground. So Chandrakirti, the text says that at this point means in the path of seeing, first noble wisdom. At this point, the first cause of all awakening, the perfection of the generosity, will become preeminence, committed to the giving away even his very flesh. Giving becomes the sign to infer his unseen quality. So unseen quality means referring to his inner realizations because of the perfect joy that allows him to give even his flesh and every part of the body his possessions. So he was very, very happy. So he says, whatever you want. So tremendous joy, they call. So at this point, when the ground of the perfect joy is attained, so in the text, at this point means it is the perfection of generosity alone. It is the perfection of the generosity alone among the 10 perfections that becomes, right? Among the 10 perfections that becomes preeminent for that bodhisattvas. So the first ground. So among the first 10 perfections, and generosity is preeminent. This is the most, the beginning of the qualities, the first quality, first cause of the bodhisattvas, right? So, which means the first ground must have the perfection of the morality, patience, concentrations, and all the 10 perfections is practiced in the first ground. But among the 10, the first generosity is his specialty, is called first quality. So it is not the case, however, that he does not possess the other perfections, which means he still have the other 10 perfections. This supramundane perfection of the generosity is also the first cause of full awakening. Tangbyu means the first cause, means the first referred noble beings kind of cause for enlightenment, the first cause. So this is of course to be understood in terms of supramundane's level of generosity. So it's not talking about, beginning of the bodhisattvas, the bodhisattvas with path of accumulations, bodhisattvas with the path of preparations. They do have the practice of the generosity, but this first cause means first cause from noble beings, right? So noble beings, first cause of the buddhahood, or the future buddhahood, is the perfection of the generosity. So although generally the subsequent perfection is superior to the one that preceded, so among the 10, this is the first quality that attained. Generosity is described as a superior here because the power to practice generosity on this ground excels to extent that is not the case for morality and so on. So the so they do have a practice of morality, but it's not preeminent or kind of not a major quality.
So on the previous paragraph, there's a saying that this should be understood in terms of the supramundane level of generosity.
Yeah, supramundane means noble, from the noble ground. Right? Supramundane, devas, mundane and supramundane. So mundane is before the noble being, before. The first ground of the Bodhisattvas before he was ordinary Bodhisattvas. He was in the path of preparations, path of accumulations. Now, when he reached the first ground, and first his quality, supramundane quality of the buddhahood is generosity, not the morality, not the patience. So on the first ground, the Bodhisattva is capable of engaging in such act of generosity as giving away his body and external belongings without slightest glimmer of attachment or possessiveness that undermine the perfection of the generosities. The senetima, I think senetima means the tent of the miserliness has totally cleaned up. Right? The tent of miserliness has totally cleaned up at the first ground. So generosity. He is also, however, not yet capable of engaging in the morality that never engages, even in the dream, or immoral act, which are the forces or the contrary to the discipline, the capacity he will attain on the second ground. So tent of the immoral has not removed yet. So the tent of the miserliness has totally, completely cleaned up within his mind stream. So that's why they call the perfect joy. Right? So furthermore, on this ground, the realization that remain as a imperceptible can be inferred through his generosity. So that proves that he has the inner kind of strength of the special quality of the realizations that allows him to kind of do things that impossible for this kind of mundanes, right? So giving away his life, giving away his flesh, giving away his positions. So, and because he has totally removed or cleaned up the tent of the miserliness. For examples, not only is the Bodhisattvas dedicated to giving away the external belongings, he becomes the committed ever more to generosity, giving away even his very flesh. So his giving becomes the sign to infer his inner realizations. So such as his attainment, which remain unseen to many others. So which means just by looking at him, you cannot predict that he has attained that kind of. So from his behavior and his activity, you can see there's an unseen quality within him. So this is similar to inferring to the presence of fire on the basis of the smoke.
So this is called, from the effect that it become the sign to infer the cause is there, right? To constitute the existing of the cause, like from the smoke and kind of proving the existing of the fire. So this stanzas describe how the bodhisattvas is free of the taint of possessiveness in relation to giving his body life and material resources. For even as he gives these away, his mental state remains steadfast, not wavering in any way. So the reason may kind of describe later. So which means generosity. In Sanskrit, they use the dhan. So dhan, dehan, right? And then so there's a dhan has many. Dana means animal. Dhan is kind of the substance that you give. Dhyan means someone who's passed away. So the dhan has many scholars are very excited to play on the kind of wording on the dhan. So dana, dhan, dhanwan, dhyan. So this. So because all in Sanskrit, and the dhan is the word itself is just a kind of noun, has no kind of actions involved. So therefore, when you put in the sentence, you have to say, I am giving this as a dhan to you, right? So that called the person who is giving a dhan, that person called dhanwan. So dhanwan means the possessor of that, like a sponsor, like dhanwan. So in English, the word itself is kind of their generosity has involved activities, actions, right? So in the Sanskrit word, it's just a noun, right? So free attainment. The stanzas describe how the Bodhisattva is free from the taint of possessiveness in relation to the giving away his body, life, and material resource. For even as he gives this away, his mental state remains steadfast, not wavering in any ways. Means now the question is, when this Bodhisattva, when he gives his life and body, right? So is there any pain that he may experience through giving his flesh and like that? And then this is what is the first bodhisattvas, the kind of noble being. So this is called Yijiran Shinjilu. Because of his realization, direct realization, emptiness, and associated with the great compassion of Bodhisattva and the kind of the years of the accumulation of merit, so that change his whole body, like ordinary to the extraordinary. So this kind of Bodhisattva, if you cut each limbs, so they can join back, right? So they have this much kind of, and and then the Chandrakirti also explained, and so how can we imagine? How we imagine what in what conditions we can think that this first noble being Bodhisattvas has his body is mental body, we call mental body, hijirashi, mental body. And then this is the Chandrakirti says he could not really explain that through his experience, but he can explain through the scripture. And then says, this is like a person who has undergoes the years in the kind of the sickness of the we call yamne. Yamne looks like a allergy, sometimes kind of like allergy. So one person who has experienced years, right, experienced the allergy, and then suddenly, and he was cured, and how this person will experience, right? So similarly, so for the ordinary people, ordinary sentient beings, the ordinary body, when he reached the first noble ground, then his body is also changed. So there is no pain in the body, and there is no reason to have any suffer in the mental state, because everything that's bodhisattvas practiced out of great compassion, right? So yeah, now the generosity of the lower stations, ordinary generosity. So this is twofold. Generosity brings the happiness of the second existence. Generosity brings the happiness of nirvana. So for ordinary people, through the practice of generosity, gain happiness of the second existence, like higher rebirths, a human being and God beings like that, higher rebirth, and the generosity also brings the happiness of the nirvana. So ordinary people say, and how generosity brings the happiness of the second existence. So Chandrakirti says, all living beings eagerly yearn for happiness, yet for human, there is no happiness without the resources. Material resources, in turn, come about from generosity. So knowing this, the Bodhisattva spoke on generosity first. So Buddha, so those, so human happiness is without the resources is not possible. So the resources are coming from the generosity. So generosity you can practice like in the business way, or generosity to practice out of compassion. Generosity is kind of out of attachment. So anything that you giving is the cause for coming, right? So who has this kind of habit, knowing that giving is the kind of condition for coming back, right? Letting it go is coming in. So this person, through the habit, and then they may kind of meet the actual guide or the perfect teacher by meeting him, then receiving the teachings, and he can generate compassion, wisdom, realizing emptiness. In this way, that person may find the action path to liberations. So those with weak compassion, now this is a ordinary people through the practice of generosity, right? So, now this generosity, so in the Sanskrit, dan, and in Tibetan, it was jimba. So jimba in English, generosity is very similar. So dan is kind of like, it's a passive itself, right? So now you can practice the generosity through kind of act of business. Like you can say, I'm going to give this, then I will expect this much come back, right? So, and I give this because I love them, or I give this because I could not bear for their suffering. And so any way you do giving, kind of you act in giving, but always there's some kind of expectations, or is it about the good kind of high rebirths, or in the wealth, or name, or kind of people may like you, or some kind of the expectations, but still it counts as generosity, right? Generosity. So, and then the second is this practice of generosity in ordinary. So does generosity proves the person is compassionate? Generosity is proving that individual is a good person or compassionate person, positive. This is not necessary, right? And then those with weak compassions, ruthless mind, who seek their own welfare with enthusiasms, very selfish, very cruel, right? So no compassion. Even for them, the wealth, their desire will come from generosity, a cause that relieve the suffering. Yeah, this is, we see in our world. So these are now the generosity, the English, there's some kind of indication of the compassion, indication of caring, right? So when you go with the Sanskrit, dan, so there is no necessary indicating any positive or compassion or caring. You simply give for one reason, right? So all of these living beings eagerly yearn for happiness, which helps, rectify such suffering as hunger, thirst, sickness, heat, and cold. Yet for human, there is no happiness without consuming the resources that are the object of desire. Food, drink, cures against the sickness, clothes, shelter against the sickness, clothes, shelter. What happened? So so knowing that these resources in turn come about from the accumulation of merit, born of generosity in the past. So even the very cruel person and very kind of negative person and can be rich and happy with their resources. So which means even that resources, or being able to kind of enjoy in their resources, is also the result of the generosity. So this is why the Buddha taught first among the 10 perfections, Buddha first give generosity, practice the generosity. Leading others to this way of the generosity is easier as well. So I think in that case, when you go shopping, is also generosity. So give money and get something. If I let this go, this will come, right? If I don't let it go, there's nothing coming from it. So it's kind of, there's some. So this kind of the activities is kind of, the done has so much to kind of, you can learn if this is generosity and that is also generosity, right? Generosity is not necessarily, generous person is not necessarily out of compassion or, but generosity is the cause for kind of to receive more. Giving one is for receiving two. So this is, in India these days, the election days, now the politicians become very generous. So they give so much money. So they know they will get more than that.
Yeah, Geshe, this seems like a kind of, if I can say, a very false generosity, not genuine generosity, it seems to me. I mean, like you say, you just brought up the example of politicians. They are quite insincere. They want to emulate them, or in many
Sound is not clear.
So their sole motivation is for themselves. They're not really doing for others. They have no. Sometimes I can't say they have no motivation. Sometimes they may do something for someone, and there's people sincerely appreciate. But some of them, really, they're totally self-centered. And anything they do, sometimes, I'm not talking all of them, but sometimes their intention is only to accumulate their own power, which they may abuse very, very terribly. And so I'm having some difficulty accepting. I understand what you're saying. You give, you get something in exchange. But if your motivation, but you always have yourself, and I know I'm going to get more out of this deal. Is that really generosity? I mean, hard for
me. So right now, we are not reading. I'm not reading. This is not trying to explain. So which generosity is more authentic? Which generosity is kind of selfish and kind of out of attachment? We're simply saying, so generosity, you may not feel this is not really generosity. People who give things out of expectations, out of in the business style, or by deceiving, right? So still, if it is the generosity by definition. By definitions, we're simply saying, by definition, these are all generosity. So generosity is, if you can feel comfortable if you go with the name like, dhan. So if you go with dhan, you can understand, yes, this is generosity. This is a giving a dhan. Right? This is giving a resource. Giving resources is the definitions, or letting resources that belong to you is the definition. So if this is the definition of generosity, yes, people who are giving things out of attachment, out of fame, out of anything, right, with explanation are all generosity. So, and then the second is saying, so what is the benefit, right? If this person is giving, right, giving, letting go of his positions in order to get more in the futures, right? When the time he was letting go of his position, is it the giving or is it not the giving? It's obviously it is the giving. So it is the giving, and that what he is giving belongs to him. So letting go of that, right? Letting go of the physical things or material things is the giving. By giving, yes, it is the generosity, right? So now you say, is the authentic generosity, is the pure generosity, it is the kind of out of compassion, then it's questionable. So otherwise, if you don't check the motivation and just kind of see the actions, yes, it is, by definition, it is the generosity. So then here the Chandrakirti is saying, we are trying right now, we are trying to, by definitions, and what is the generosity in general, right? We are not talking about is it authentic or pure, right? So why it is important, the Buddha, the first he teaches the generosity is people are relying on their life, their kind of, surviving is depending on the resources. So resources, coming of the resources is through the giving. So that's why Buddha teaches the first among the 10 professions, Buddha teaches the generosity first, right? And then now the second thought is this kind of generosity, although it's not pure, it has kind of, attend with attachment, and there are many kind of the attachment. So yes, but still it brings some kind of resources back to the individual. And the additional, this is, if this continues, the person is doing this, so maybe he accidentally or kind of by chances, he can meet the bodhisattvas. When he meet the bodhisattvas, so he may able to kind of find a way to receiving the teaching from the bodhisattvas. Then there's the chances for him to purify his practice of the generosity, and so he may able to find the actual path to the liberations. So that's the kind of unit you're saying. We are not talking about whose generosity is pure or kind of, what is the motivation behind that. So simply, by definitions, what is generosity? So if you go with the dhan, yes, giving dhan, letting go of dhan is the generosity. Then politician giving is generosity, right? Is the generosity. So maybe you may not feel comfortable with kind of giving things out of attachment is generosity. So then I'm saying here, so in the Sanskrit word, the dhan is noun. So dhan, so people who has wealth, he's dhanwan, right? So he has a lot of dhan. so in Tibetan, the kind of Tibetan languages, so generosity is more like giving. And in English, is generosity means giving, right? Right. So, and I also mentioned the story about the rich old woman. Right? I told you that story. She was very cruel. She was very kind of possessive. She is kind of wealthy, and her house, like when she met she even couldn't really sleep on her beautiful bed. So, so she thinks it will get dirty. So she would just sleep on the ground. So that's how she was possessive, right? She never gives anything. If someone beggar comes, asks for help, and she kind of curse, and she would just say bad things, just kind of. So one day, so this one practitioner, and he deliberately coming again and again to that the kind of old man's door and said, "Please give me something." And she was every time when he comes, she was very angry. She yelled, and then other people says, "Hey, practitioners, so why do you keep going to this house? Even we don't go to her house." And he says, "So that's my duty. It's my job. So I have to go." So he keep going and going. One day she throw kind of, the piece of cloth. So it's kind of has a lot of dirt. She throw, said, "Yes, take this." And this practitioners, and he took this material, the fabric, and he washed it very clean and make the, I would say, wig out of that fabric. And then he offered the butter lamp to the Lord Vishnu and pray for him. So in the night, the Vishnu came to this old woman's dream, and Vishnu kind of let her kind of, some kind of by. So in the dream, she sees the Vishnu, and by seeing the Vishnu, and she kind of, she sensed that how bad she is, how possessive she is, and she overnight she changed. So that is because of the practice of the generosity. They're saying here, this is also generosity. And then there's the saying, why do you count this as generosity? Because she just out of kind of anger, she threw that thing. And then Lord Vishnu says, so there, by definitions, yes, it is generosity. She let go of her own position. So letting go of her position is generosity. Although she did that with anger, but it's generosity. So yeah, it still benefits if you if the kind of hungry dog, if you throw with anger, throw the bread, go away. So you just eat the bread. Dog will be very happy. So by depending, but from the dog point of view, yes, it is generosity, right? So that person has let go of his bread. So by definition, we're simply talking about by definition, what is the generosity, right? So now the first ground of the Bodhisattvas in his generosity is through the perfection of the wisdom. So direct realization of the emptiness. Right? So that makes even his generosity to be more perfect. So the perfection of the generosity become like that. So if the person who is doing things out of compassion, that really, perfecting his practice of generosity. So yeah, where am I? This is one might, yeah. Generosity in the past, the Bodhisattvas, the Buddha who perceived the mind of all beings, thus spoke on generosity first. Leading others to this way of generosity is easier as well. So Buddha has to teach generosity is the good. This is the kind of, this is the way to receive more materials, more resources for your happiness, more kind of resources to cure your sickness. So the letting go of something is the good thing, right? So one might wonder, in order to obtain the excellent material resources through the act of generosity, must be giver be perfectly elegant with the criteria of authentic generosity. So this is not necessary. So giving with so not necessary to be kind of criteria of authentic generosity. This is not necessary. We should even respect a merchant who seek the greater wealth by giving away a small portion of his wealth, or someone who gives to beggar in hope of producing the greater wealth. Such givers are unlike the Bodhisattvas. So these givers as out of attachment, but still count as a generosity, but still it brings the result, right? Still brings the result. So unlike the Bodhisattvas, who under compassion's sway do not aspire for fruit of giving, but give celebrating the joy that is wished to give. So now this unique thing is Bodhisattvas. So the ordinary people, out of attachment, out of some kind of expectations, they give. Therefore, they couldn't enjoy. So the practice of the generosity. So they don't feel, right? This is bringing so much kind of the joy in their mind. So Bodhisattva do that out of compassion immediately when they give, especially when they see others kind of, other side of the person who satisfied from what you give, they suddenly filling up the joy, right? So Bodhisattva celebrate the joy that is who wish to give. Now, an ordinary giver may be not only weak in compassion, he may even possess a ruthless mind towards other sentient beings. He may seek with enthusiasm his own welfare, such as birth and higher realms. So that is to say, he may make his pursuit of self-interest his guiding principle. Even for them, it is from generosity, the generosity whose only positive quality is the turning away from the clinging to the resources, is based on an expectation of the fruit of generosity. So which means here the generosity is the purpose of the generosity is to come something, right? You may get something from it. So this is what Buddha sees. This is the simply kind of purely from the cause and effect by giving and let it come. So that's why Buddha says you kind of, you have to know this. This is the simply cause and effect relation. So more you give, more comes. Or giving is the source of coming, right? So, so the bodhisattvas giving things out of compassion. So they kind of while they're as the giving, even some are hurt, right? They hear someone's asking help, kind of calling your name, so they get tremendous joy. So bodhisattvas, that wonderful and excellent wealth their desire will come about. In this way, such generosity can become a cause that relieves the suffering of hunger and thirst and so on. So I think this answered some people. They kind of quite often they say, why these bad people are so rich and so look so well. So these bad people giving a lot, so giving big, so they are powerful, right? So the law and cause and effect, they don't really care for. Is out of compassion, is out of attachment. So generosity brings the happiness of nirvana. So the second is, so if the ordinary people who practice the generosity out of attachment, how they can, how this generosity become the cause for nirvana? So then says, indeed, it is through the practice of generosity that he will swiftly, at some point, meet the Aryas, right, noble beings. He will then cut clean the continuum of cyclic existence. And as a result, he will journey to the state of peace. So indeed, the respect to one who, while divorce of compassions, divorce from the compassion, devotes himself to generosity to secure his own happiness and relieve his personal suffering. So the commentary states that the sublime one walk among those who give. So this is the sublime, the Arya beings, or noble beings, or the Bodhisattvas, meet to those people, right, who has a habit of practice of generosity. Even that person is out of kind of attachment. So these people may meet Bodhisattvas. Then for having such sublime beings teach him the Dharma, he will come to perceive that the second existing is, bereft of the beneficial quality. He will then, actualizing the uncontaminated path of Arya, come to eliminate ignorance and thus cut clean the continuum of the cyclic existence. So continuity of the birth and death since beginningless time, and as a result of meeting with the sublime one, he will journey to the state of peace, the attainment of the Śrāvaka nirvana, or that of a Pratyeka Buddhist. So now Buddha is saying this giving is good, which means that includes business is good, right? And politicians, the way they do things, so they know this thing is working. This is working, right? Business, they see this is working, right? Investing, maybe $5 to get $15 back. So it is working. So this, not because of the, the relation of the cause and effect is not created by the businessman, is not created by anyone who is kind of attached to the resources. It's pure cause and effect relations. So they come to understand this is working, so they just kind of, invest on that. So in this way, Bodhisattva was saying, Buddha teaches, if this is working, so we are relying on the resources. Without resources, human beings are not happy. So the resources are coming from letting go of something from you, right? So then Bodhisattvas, they says, now if you let go of something, not out of any kind of, attachment, if you let go of things out of compassion, not only, you will get something in the future, and right away when you're giving, you will be very joyful out of compassion, if you're doing this out of compassion. So now the generosity of the Bodhisattvas, this has 4 parts. A unique benefit of the Bodhisattvas' generosity, how the discourse on the generosity is primary for both type of practitioners. The third is the type of joy our Bodhisattvas obtain from engaging in generosity, and whether the Bodhisattvas suffer when they give away the body. The 4, right? And number 1, unique benefit of the Bodhisattvas' generosities. So those who keep in mind their pledge to help sentient beings without much delay attain the joy through their generosities. Then Jamaica is a public dollar pamper tamji yijin jingbo rimbo metan gawatabus. So I think this Bodhisattvas, maybe this is one of the reasons Bodhisattvas immediately when they practice the generosity, when they give things, right away they receive tremendous joy. So I think, 1, because they are pledged to benefit sentient beings without exceptions. So they always dedicate. So may I be able to useful for every sentient beings, like water, fire, like earth, medicinal trees. They're always dedicating. When this, if someone, they're being able to help one person, and they think, oh, my dedication is working, right? Oh, I could help this one, I could help this one. So they right away, so they get the result.
So without much delay, is interpreted immediately.
Immediately, yeah. Immediately. So ordinary people, they know it coming, but while they're giving, it's not necessarily they're happy, right? Even they receive like double, it's not necessarily they're happy. but the resources for sure is coming. The happiness is not sure, so you're not sure that you are happy. So I think, yeah. So the Bodhisattvas was like that. They pledged to help sentient beings without much delay attain the joy, their generosity. So non-Bodhisattvas do not invariably enjoy the happiness that is the fruit of their generosity immediately after the act. So who are not Bodhisattvas. Right? So that is to say, simultaneous with recipient being satisfied through the giving, because they do not see the fruit of their giving directly. They may not continue to engage in generosity. In contrast, the Bodhisattvas. So I think this is very true, because when you have wealth, right, in your mind is what is going in. So if I let this go, so I will be, if maybe, I will be get more, a double or triple through that. So when they see other people's kind of enjoying and satisfied from what you have given to them, you don't see this is the great deal. So you want the result. So then if I get the result, if I get the benefit from it, double, so I may be happy. Not just because this person is happy, right? So they could not really happy with. So Bodhisattvas who keep in mind their pledge to help sentient beings in the long run, and to bring about their happiness in the immediate term, seeing the feeling of the satisfaction brought about in the recipient through their generosities, they will, without much delay, so immediately attain the supreme joy as the first fruit of their giving. The first result is immediately, right, the joyful. And as they experience such fruit of generosity, so they will continue to delight in giving at all times. So one kind of act of giving, so they they become so, satisfied, they want to do it more. So I think one of the story I told before, during the, I think Nalanda, during the Chandrakirti time, there was a lay person and a very scholar and great practitioner, Chandragomi. So Chandragomi is a lay person and a great scholar. So he has the habit of giving. So every day he has to give something, every day. So one day, one person came to him and says, and so he asked for help. And then Chandragomi has already given away so many things that he has nothing to give. And he was very hesitant and very kind of, so this person asking, I have nothing. So he has two statues, Tara statue and Avalokiteshvara. So Tara statue has the garland, jewelry. And the Tara statue says, give this. So then he has the Tara statue without ornament. So that's how he kind of, known. And so he wants to give, and he has this kind of, this is where, in our Logishyaras, that every day he promised to give one session of the teaching. Our Lama always give him teaching. So he was the practitioner of the our Lama and the Dara. So Chandrakirti as the laypersons, he's kind of like a practitioner and a very great scholar. And so one day he went to Nalanda. So at that time, the abbot of Nalanda is Chandrakirti. So Chandrakirti is in the class, he was giving teaching. And Chandrakirti just standing there, kind of at the end of the students, that he was just standing there and listening. So normally the standing is disrespect when someone's giving teaching. So his sign of standing is he wanted to challenge Chandrakirti. So he wanted to debate with him. So Chandrakirti, he just ignored and he kept giving teaching. At the end of when teaching finished, session is finished, and then Chandrakirti asked one of his attendant monk, said, "So go ask him, are you Chandrakirti?" So he sensed that maybe this one challenge, but there's one very famous, the lay person, very scholar. Maybe he's that person him. And then the monk went to him, Chandrakirti. So are you Chandrakirti? And Chandrakirti says, this is how people know. So he come back. So yes, he is Chandrakirti. And then ask him, what do you know? What do you know? And Chandrakirti is a very scholar. So he was not bragging, but he says, I know the Mañjuśrī root text. I know the ornament of perfection realizations. So it's kind of implying that I know everything. So he says, he simply says, I know too, right? The root text of the Mañjuśrī and the ornament of the realizations. So kind of says, I know all of Tantra and Sutra. So Chandrakirti want to invite him. So in the monastery, with real respect, and then says, because you are laypersons, so we cannot send the monk to carry you. So I have a kind of the idea. So you just hold the Mañjuśrī statue on your lap. So we will bring you to the monastery. So he was sitting, in the what do you call it? In the old time, there's some carrier. So Chandrakirti was sitting on his lap. There's Mañjuśrī statue, and then monks are carrying him to the monastery. So then they stays in the monasteries. So every day, morning he comes to the Chandrakirti's room and debate with him, hours and hours debating. And so when he got almost defeated, Chandrakirti, then he said, can I come tomorrow again? So he just leaves. And next day again, come debate. He got almost defeated and said, I need to go back. So when every time he come back, he was more smarter. So Chandrakirti was wondering, who is giving him, who's his teacher? There's someone in his room that kind of teach him. And one day, Chandrakirti just sneak into his room and see what is he doing. And there's our Lukitya statue just facing him and doing like this to give teaching. If Chandrakirti say this, you say this. Chandrakirti say this, you say this. And Chandrakirti opened the door and says, Papa, means he was calling to the Mañjuśrī, please do not discriminate. So he said, so why you're so kind to him, why not me? So that's, so Chandragomi is like that. So bodhisattvas, they experience the fruit of the generosity. They will continue to delighted in giving at all times. So I think this joyful, or the kind of being delighted in the giving, and so this may be not there in ordinary practice, ordinary generosity. So bodhisattvas, even the small things they give, they get tremendous joy, right? How the discourse on the generosity is primary for both type of practitioners. Niba kanji zeda mayimbas. Since it is for both compassionate and one who is not, this discourse on the generosity is primary. So the primary means the main conditions, what makes the difference, what makes the distinctions between bodhisattva's generosity and ordinary, the mundane practice of generosities. And then that kind of the distinguish, because from the two things, one is the motivations, one is the immediate result. So ordinary practice of generosity, there's no immediate result. And bodhisattvas, motivations, motivated by compassions, and so right away when they're acting in the generosity, there is immediate result. So that makes the distinctions, compassionate and one who is not. Since the explained above, generosity brings forth all the happiness of the birth in the higher realms, as well as that of the definite goodness of all beings, of both the bodhisattvas who is compassionate and ordinary person who is not an embodiment of compassion. This discourse on the giving is primary, in that it is the most important, yeah. So what is the most important? Most important. Because the both generosity, with compassion and without compassion, both brings the resources, right? Both brings the resources. But the bodhisattvas who are practicing generosity through outer compassions, so they get immediate result of the joy and tremendous happiness, delighted. So that's why the bodhisattvas continuously they want to do this practice. So other people and the ordinary people, if the attachment is strong, desire is strong, they may kind of start giving things, and there's no desire, or they don't see it's possible for them, they won't go and practice generosity. So bodhisattvas, so no matter the time, no matter how much you have, they want to do continuously giving, because they kind of driven cause is the kind of tremendous joy is there, right? So sometimes the resources, the kind of coming through their practice of generosity. So two things. Sometimes when there is kind of the result, when they receive the result, maybe sometimes people find it's not that much benefit to them, right? Or it comes when they are when they don't need them, when it's not really important to them, right? But resources coming is due to their practice of generosity. So generosity, the function of generosity is to bring, right? So letting go of something is kind of making something to come. So I think this is why the done can be impermanent, beyond. Something is disintegrating is the sign of the result is coming, right? So disintegration of this life is the kind of coming of next life. So the going is coming, and that's kind of, is the pure cause and effect relations. So now, sometimes, you see, like maybe California, if you try to plant coconut, it won't grow, right? Maybe papaya may grow, so coconut is not. So, so if you plant the apple tree in like South India, like where weather is too hot, there is no, you cannot. So things kind of, cause and effect is, we call it lubricants, rengawa means temporarily. This cause and effect relation is temporarily, right? It's not absolute. So it depending on other corporate cause and condition. So this is why sometimes people invest so much, they're lost. So you have to look the corporate conditions and expect the result through the kind of letting go of your kind of materials. So the bodhisattvas, the compassions, is not really kind of because their goal is not the resources coming. So their goal is to benefit. Right. Bodhisattvas, their main goal is to benefit. So they're not aiming in the resources, the materials, kind of to receive as a result of giving. So their benefit is the person being satisfied, person being benefit. Right. So in this way, you can see the relations, cause and effect. Bodhisattva's practice of the generosity is always there for them. They see every generosity is successful. So ordinary, because their aim is to receive the material resources, not the person, not his happiness, right? So their main goal. So they may be, so they find many times they are lost, not successful, right? Yeah.
Bodhisattva gets joy though.
Yeah. So that's why his holiness is Bodhisattvas is wisely selfish. So they know every moment, they know they get the benefit. So in a conventional generosity in Lam Rimshamu, they talk about the generosities and giving on the time, giving to someone who need it, and you have to know is this benefit to them, right? If you are giving something, for example, something that is not really benefit to individual, and you keep giving, and that is the result may not come as you want, right? So if you give chili to the child, baby, so here, so it's beautiful, but when you give it to the child, no, this is not good to giving to the child. So if you give chili to the parent, so they get excited, so happy, right? So you have to know what time and to whom and when, right? How it is required to them, how it can benefit to them. So then the result from this generosity may come as you want. Right? So this is why in the Lamrim Chimo, in the practice of generosity, it says you have to give things with two hands and bow your head. So this kind of, teach us to know that the result that you want from these actions may come swiftly in the time, right? So kind of as you desire for, right? So for that reason, so you have to do things giving with two hands, with bowing head, right? And sometimes you give things that makes other person insulted, right? And they hear things disrespect, like throwing, right, or yelling. So this may damage the result, right? So by definition, all of them are generosity, with yelling, with anger, with attachment. So by definition, all generosity is the giving. Right? So the result of the generosity is what makes it successful, what makes it meaningful. Now it's depending on your motivations and it depending on the person who received it. If someone's very thirsty, right? So, and you give water, cup of water, that really has a benefit to the individual, the relief is kind of in the thirst. So that result is more kind of, when it comes, when you receive the result, is more suitable to you, more meaningful. Right? So in India, there are all people there saying that giving things without any checking, right, is disrespect to the wealth. Right? Without checking, how can this person may get benefit from this, right? Without knowing it, so keep giving is also disrespect to the wealth. So like, giving chili to the baby is disrespect. So, but yeah, something going or something letting it go is all of them are the condition to bring new product. So from the seed to the sprout, from the investment to the profit, right? So kind of, buying grocery store, right? So you have to kind of make something go and then get something. So the impermanence, from the done, you can understand the impermanence. From the done, you can understand the practice of generosity. From the done, you say what you are giving. From the done, you can understand the circumstance or the condition, the situations, what you're giving and what you have to give. So, Danwan Dihan. Right? So, to be Danwan, to be rich, to be wealthy. And so, for that is the generosity. Generosity, so practice with generosity is what you are giving is you're letting go of something. Letting go of something from this, you understand impermanence. So if you stick with one thing, hold on thing, it won't double, right? So impermanence. So yeah, the friendly letter Nagarjuna states that knowing the well to be fickle and devoid of essence, pray engage in the giving perfectly to the monk, to the Brahmin, to the hungry, to your friends. There is no greater friend to your next life than the generosity. So generosity is the best friend. So they say, Nagarjuna's letter to friend. So I think you can say the cause and effects is ever present with you all the time. Cause and effect, law and cause and effect, ever, right? In this life and next life, and every day the cause and effect functioning. So yeah, the type of joy the bodhisattvas obtain from the engaging in generosity. If simply, so this Chandrakirti's text is simply hearing. So bodhisattvas, why bodhisattvas, kind of, and how the bodhisattvas, they get tremendous joy from the giving. So there's, if simply hearing or thinking of the phrase, give me, brings such joy to the children of the conqueror. So that means children of Geshe, bodhisattvas. Joy not experienced even by the arhat who enter into the peace. So what need is there to speak of the joy when giving away everything? So people may think giving away everything is stupid, is foolish. So yes, as ordinary people who has not yet generated the great compassion, yes, it's stupid, giving everything that you have, right? So it's not necessary to come back immediately, maybe next life. So and then until then, what you do, right? So for the bodhisattvas, yes, they're giving away everything is still, right, is the condition for a great joy. Yeah, so one may ask, what kind of extraordinary joy arises in the bodhisattva when recipients are satisfied through material resources? So the very cause that underlies the bodhisattva's dedication to the act of generosity. If simply hearing or thinking about meaning of phrase giving, give me, or brings such joy to the children of the conqueror, giving rise to the thought they are asking something from me. Such a joy is not experienced even by the arhat who enter into the state of peace. the expense of nirvana. If this is so, what need is there to speak of joy when giving away everything? So both internal and external, and satisfying the recipient in such manner that these engender joy greater than the that of the bliss of the tranquility. Yeah, so it's kind of arhat. There is no need at all. Then one's mind is attracted to the bliss of tranquility. One becomes one's mind is attracted to the bliss of the tranquility means arhats. One becomes diverted from others' welfare. In contrast, so when one's mind is inspired by the Bodhisattva's joy as described above, this would engender even greater enthusiasm for the pursuing the welfare for others. So there is no difference between these two types of joy. So the arhat, comparing arhat, peace in the arhat, and the joy in the bodhisattva, ordinary bodhisattvas, right? So ordinary bodhisattvas, in the practice of generosity, the joy they experience is much, much higher and greater than the arhat who are in the peace. And the second reason is the arhat peace, because of they are in the peace, they are kind of attracted to the peace. So that prevent them to further kind of, going on the path of the bodhisattvas. It will stop them. It will prevent them. It will obstacles. It becomes obscuring their path to go the further the practice of the Mahayana to attain the enlightenment. Bodhisattvas' joy, even the ordinary bodhisattvas, their joy from the generosity, that become the fuel for the bodhisattvas, for the individual, to improve themselves, to enhance their realizations. That really kind of, so that kind of, this is the difference, the arhat in the peace and joy in the ordinary bodhisattvas through the practice of generosities. So one piece that not kind of making them active, it's keeping them away from the buddhahood, keeping them away from the sentient beings. So bodhisattva's joy is kind of continuously benefiting sentient beings enthusiastically and attaining the buddhahood, or getting closer to the buddhahood. Yeah, any questions now?
Yes, I have a question, but I have to go back to something you said much earlier in your talk about a bodhisattva's from giving. We're about, I think, to deal with this in the next section also, I think, which is about pain. They don't feel, you say they don't feel pain, and at least like we do. And even if their limbs are cut, their limbs can reattach. They're not afraid even to give their limbs, which I think the next section is what deals with this kind of thing. But I remember, I only heard about this. I did not see it. It was a very great Zen master. I think it was Shunryu Suzuki, or maybe it was Daisetsu. I'm not sure if it was Shunryu or Daisetsu
Suzuki, and he went to Esalen. I don't want to go into what Esalen is. It's in California, and he was in a spa, a jacuzzi. It's a hot bath with other people, and he was dying of cancer. He had terminal cancer, and he refused to take any medicine. He wanted to be totally awake with his pain, with experiencing his pain and things in the present. And I heard that as he was in this jacuzzi with a number of other people, his pain was so immense. He was yelling all the time. He felt a lot of physical suffering. And so I'm thinking, well, this person was said to be an incredible master, a great bodhisattva, but he still had apparently an extremely acute sense of pain, which didn't stop him from his determination not to take medicine for the pain, although I don't know, maybe like me, he took medicine, he found it didn't do any good. I don't know what he had gone through before this, but my point is that he did feel pain. When I was going through my shingles thing, I wanted to run from my body. I tried to run once. The pain was so intense in my body, I tried to run from my body, but of course that doesn't work. And at some point I realized there's no way to escape the pain. Even the medicine wasn't helping me. So, even though the pain was utterly excruciating, I thought, well, I'll try to be conscious during the pain. And the pain was so overwhelming at times. There were twice I passed out during the pain. I was trying to be aware, but the pain was so excruciating, I passed out. But my question is, here is this great, as far as I'm concerned, very great being. And he was feeling immense pain. And he was suffering. People could hear his anguished yelling in pain. So he did have physical suffering. This seems contrary to what's being expressed here, that once you become a great bodhisattva, you won't feel this. Even your body, in some sense, changes so profoundly, in your channels and all that you don't experience pain the same way. So I wonder if you would comment on that. Why some being like this great being he was expressing a lot of physical suffering.
Yeah, first, I do not know that master is Bodhisattva or not. Definitely, yeah, he might be practitioners, the great practitioners. But here I'm talking about kind of explaining this text, like Chandrakirti has mentioned in the root text. So Chandrakirti is not denying that the pain, the kind of, so Chandrakirti is simply saying that the first ground of the Bodhisattva has no physical pain. So that does not mean Bodhisattvas, the path of accumulations, Bodhisattvas, path of preparations, when they also kind of, when they practice this kind of giving away their flesh and kind of, when they engage in this kind of pain, very tremendous pain. So I think the later part of this, the end of this chapter is the first ground, and then it answers that here. So bodhisattvas, the ordinary bodhisattvas, when they engage in this kind of practice, giving their life, So this, yes, they do experience the pain, the tremendous pain. So the pain is not stopping them, right, to kind of, not really kind of blocking their mind to think about. So rather, the stronger the pain, the stronger the compassion, like a mother. So when the mother always kind of, for example, when mother with her child, when they're accident, so mother is tremendous pain, but she has, because the pain that concerns more about her child, more than kind of, more than her own pain. So children is more. So the bodhisattvas, ordinary bodhisattvas, when they experience this kind of tremendous pain, that develops the enhancing their compassion towards sentient beings. So that kind of, the kind of, worry and how to say, their kind of focus, the focus deflect from their own pain to the other sentient beings. So due to their compassion, the great compassions. So the answer is kind of ordinary. Yes, ordinary bodhisattvas, they do experience the pain. So the first bhumi, they don't really experience. They don't have any physical pain. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's my answer, Larry. Larry King. So I think this last stanza maybe. Abiding. Simply thinking of the praise giving each other. And then there's no physical pains. And through the pain of cutting his body, giving it away, he views the suffering of others, such as those in the hell, and on the basis of what he has experienced, he strived with effort to cut away the pain of others. And then so this is the Naso translators, his translations. And the Pasab Nimata, the Pasab translation is cutting his body and giving it away. He sees from his own pain the pain of others, such as their birth in hells, as if he were undergoing these situations himself. Thus swiftly he strived to cut away all their pains. So he was kind of more kind of enthusiastic, more kind of promising to cut away the other's pain because of his own pain. So he's kind of more worry and more concerns. His focus totally shifts to the pain of others. Right? And this is the Nyamata, Pasab translations, and then the Nasan Losava translations. Through the pain of cutting his body and giving it away, he views the suffering of others, such as those in the hell, and on the basis of what he has experienced, he strives with effort to cut away the pain of others. So these two different kind of slightly kind of The wording style is a little different. Nasang losang in the puzzle. So this is like a mother's pain when she sees her own child pain. So she forgets her own pain and her focus is shifted to the other child. This kind of, compassion. Then I'm not sure if this person will still scream for his own pain or not. So we should ask the mother. So I think mother always says, what happened to my child? What about my child? Please to help my children. She won't, her focus is not on her own pain. If someone trying to help her, she will say, please help my children, right? So this kind of bodhisattvas, compassion. The first Bhumi, there's no physical pain. So that's why in this bodhisattvas, Mañjuśrī, bodhisattvas vows. So the vows, one of the rule is don't give away your head and your life and your flesh, right? Is one of the rules in the bodhisattvas. So only you can allow to do that when you reach the first ground. So ordinary bodhisattvas are kind of, said you are not allowed. So even though you have this kind of compassion, desire to do that, but you are not allowed. So intentions, I think when it comes to cause and effect relations, it's always the reflex from the motivations and from the object. From the object means there's a tremendous kind of one of the arhat during the Bodhisattva, one of the arhat. So they're named by kind of Genjung Gurchopo, that's a crooked arhat. So he was kind of very weak and very physical, is kind of crooked, right? So this person, many lives before, he caused the death of his mother. He put his mother in the house because she has a habit of giving things away. So the son doesn't want her to give. When he was little, the father is doing that. Father is giving away. So mother also have this kind of habit. So he was worried that if continuously giving this kind of even to the people, and he may kind of end up in not resource anything. So he can every time he stopped his mother to do things, mother won't listen, and he put his mother in the kind of kept in the house. So mother died in that house, right? So no drink, no food. So that kind of caused the result. When he was doing that, his intention is about the resources. He has no kind of, no intention to kill his mother. But, no matter what is your intention is, with the result and with your mother, so that makes the kind of, the kind of, the tremendous, the suffering as a result in many lives, 500 lives, this is 500 lives, he go through this pain. When he, during the Bodhisattva, when he born, he was you call Gurjo woman. He born in a very poor beggar family. So even the beggars abandon him because every time when you go with other beggar, they won't get any food. So they all think he's very, inauspicious. This person is very unlucky. So every time I go with this person, I won't get anything to eat. So even the beggars abandon him. So this person, when he meet the Buddha, so Buddha took him to the ashram, the monastery. So he Buddha make him to sweeping and then cleaning up. And every time he was doing, and while he was doing it, Buddha gives some teachings. You should do these meditations, the kind of continuously giving teachings. So he reached the arhat. So everybody was very shocked. Why this person, right? So we are there for many years in the monasteries receiving the teaching. We have a kind of, more capacities to understanding of the teachings, right? But what happened to this person? So then Buddha says, there's the reason. He has already planted the seed for the liberation for a long, long time. So once he was a scholar during another Buddha. So at that time, he was very, when even he was scholar and very kind of, knowledgeable, but he was so kind of stingy about giving away his sharing his knowledge. So that kind of, this continuously happening. So so he was so So this person, he has gone through 500 years in the hell realms and then animals in many ways. So, and the question is why this person has gone through tremendous suffering for many, many lives, and he has no intention to kill his mother. It's accidentally happened. So now the question is, so your actions, what complete your actions? So what has complete your actions? The actions complete your mother, then the result is kind of much stronger. If that action accidentally killed your strangers or animals, may not that much kind of suffering. So because of the mother, right? So in here, the generosity is you're doing out of attachment or out of compassion. Generosity has a function to bring more result, to bring result. Is the kind of, this is purely cause and effect relations. Now the question is, if this person is continuously doing this practice generosity with no good intentions, no compassion, no sense of kind of complete care for others, but he continues doing that. So this says, when he continues doing that, bodhisattvas may see. So this has a good habit. So he can meet these bodhisattvas, and the bodhisattvas may guide him in the practice to purify or to kind of to improve his positive activities. So this is said, if you don't do anything, although you have no bad in motivations, not doing is not coming. so bad person can do many things, they get many things. Right? Good person or not bad person, but doing nothing is getting nothing. So I have to do things. Yeah, and you see those great, Angulimala. So who's the man who killed many people. So he was deceived, right? So he thinks this is his teacher's kind of, advice, suggestions. So it may kind of, cause a good result in the next life. So this person is with faith, with good respect to his teacher, killing people. So he met the Buddha. So at least you have to do something, yeah. So, yeah, I think Angulimala, yeah, that's crooked arhat. So, and then what is that? Yeah, there's one Papa Lamchung, the Arya. And during the Bodhisattva, there's the most youngest teenager, 2 arhats. So that's also one of the So this is a whole coming from the cause and effect relations, purely from the cause and effect. So I stopped here, the all beings. This one, right? So I'll stop here. Whether the bodhisattvas suffer when they give away their body. Any other questions?
Thank you for this incredible teaching today. I really appreciate it.
Gonshi, gonshi. Sanju Simjo Rinpoche, Majebana, Geshuji, Gebanyamba, Mebanya, Kone Kondo, Pewashi, Tony Tawa Rinpoche, Majebana, Geshuji, Gebanyamba, Mebanya, Kone Kondo, Pewashi, Pama Simjen Tamje, Dada Denjuji, Yendo Tamje Tadu Towa, Chanju Samba, Kanda Sushi, Dada Kunji, Molong Juji, Karera Veko, Shingazu, Pendan de Wama, Joe, Jeresawa, Tenzi Jazu, Shabe Side Badu, Denjuji.
May the precious Bodhi mind not yet on arise and grow.
May the bone have no decline but increase forever.
May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forever. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, more powerful transit cleansing gift. Remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much.